Hey, what's up, Yvonne's getting in here just in the nick of time before midnight here in Napa Valley. It's been a really rowdy, fun Monday night here at Press. Just wrapping up, and we opened some pretty cool bottles tonight, and I'm here to share with you part of my new DREGS series, some of the wines that are left over tonight. So something that we don't get to taste here that often, one because it's rare, and two because we're in Napa Valley wine list. This is something from California that we don't get to taste that often. So this is Sine Qua Non. If you have not heard of Sine Qua Non, you may have heard it referred to as SQN. Super cult wine from California down in the Ventura County area, made by Manfred and Elaine Kringle. Founded in 1994 and has really had cult status since the very beginning. In fact, their first vintage of wine is probably one of the most sought after California wines to ever exist. So their specialty is all Rhone varietals. He works primarily with Grenache and a little bit of Syrah. He does some Viognier, some Marsanne, a little Roussanne, a bunch of other things, but super cool guy. One of his big claim to fame are these crazy shaped bottles that he does. Actually, this one's not that crazy, but crazy shaped bottles, different labels every time. So you can see this is a 5-shooter. This is called This Thrill of Stamp Collecting. Really eclectic, crazy names. Usually fairly like high octane wines, but done in a really great way. I typically gravitate towards his white wines. I love the dessert wines that he used to make. I think he stopped making them after the passing of Crocker. But these wines here, I've got 2 Syrahs, the 5-shooter from 2010 and then the Thrill of Stamp Collecting from 2009. Let's get into the wine, because that's what you came for. You want to know how it tastes, right? Really fun night tonight. We had some people leave these behind and gift them to me. Lucky me, I have the best job in the world, I know. Let's get into it. Woo! Very big. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about Syrahs from California having more of that juicy, ripe, jammy vibe to them. This is exactly what I'm talking about. These wines like this that are just a little bit more opulent, a little bit more ripeness, and a little bit more texture than something like the Lager Meredith, which I did before. So totally opposite side of the spectrum. On the nose, you still get really those nice roasted meats, but what I will say is I'm, for the first time in a long time, getting a lot of black olive, which is a common thing found in Syrah, but I don't always get it, and I'm getting it in spades in this wine. Tons and tons of black olive. As if you open a jar of black olives and just stuck your nose into it. Lots of fruit on here as well, but definitely leans heavily on that like more salty, briny, olivey, really interesting nose. Let's get into the palate. This is 15.5% alcohol by volume. It is a, wow, my mouth is watering. It is a high alcohol wine. That said, I think it's a really well done wine with the alcohol very integrated. So you can feel it, but the rest of the wine sort of comes up to it, hugs it, and makes it feel like a very complete intentional wine. So I'm not mad at the alcohol. When we talk about alcohol, I'm usually only offended when it doesn't really blend in, it doesn't have a purpose. And I think this wine is a great example of a wine of that style being a little bit more opulent, but still doing it really well with a lot of integrity. So that's a 2009. A little more grip, a decent amount of acid, really viscous, really round, soft. Doesn't have as much of that roasted charcuterie thing. I would say if you're somebody that loves really big Napa cabs and you've not ventured into the world of Sine Qua Non, buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be a really fun ride for you, a really expensive ride. These wines will retail anywhere from about $300 to $3,000 depending on the cuvee, the vintage, and the varietals. So I think this one, the Thrill of Stamp Collecting, when I looked at it, it was somewhere around like $350, somewhere in there. I don't really want to drink all this, but I'm going to drink it. I didn't say that. I know a lot of you out there are like, what do you mean you don't want to drink it? Let's do the 2010 really quick. This is the 5-shooter. He sources fruit from all over, so it doesn't list it on the label. This is called just a California Syrah, so it really can come from anywhere. It's more style that we're after with this wine. On the nose. More black olive. And it's funny, I tasted these wines a little while ago, and more as I'm getting into them, they're showing me a lot more black olive. Really comparable nose, but this one is a little bit more pronounced. Has a little bit more ripeness and a little bit more darkness, and it's slightly reductive. It has like a slightly sour component to it. A little more balance in this wine. I think I prefer this to the 2009. The tannins are still there. They're really nice and grippy, which is what I want from a Syrah like this. When it's got this much fruit and this much power, this much alcohol, I need tannin to sort of be the backbone for me in this wine, and it's really there for me. So I prefer something like this to the 2009, which was a little softer, rounder on the edges. This 2010's got a little bit more of that grip that I'm looking for. I'm assuming alcohol is probably somewhere about the same, 15.2. Let's give it one more sip. Beautiful wines. I mean, truly, it has earned the cult status that it has. It has earned the accolades. It is a truly well-made wine, though it may not be the style that you're after or someone else is after. I think they're really well-made wines, and you cannot deny that, even though it might not. Maybe they might be too expensive, maybe they might be too much alcohol for you, and maybe this might not be your varietal or style of winemaking, but you cannot say that these are not well-made wines. They are incredibly well-made wines, and whether or not you want to spend the money on them is up to you. I think they're fantastic, and I will leave you with that. It's late. I'm sorry if I'm like, my eyes aren't quite open. I will see you a little earlier tomorrow. I've got a long day on the latter half of my day, so I will be on live a little bit earlier, and I'm not sure I'm gonna talk about, but if you have anything that you'd like me to talk about tomorrow, why don't you leave it in the comments and let me know, and I'll think about it. I'll see you all later. Thanks for joining in.